I re-upped my website, fanalog.com, and it was all started because someone dissed X-Men The Last Stand. And I like amazing thesis. Like it's a fucking thesis about my defense. So I'm literally like, it's like Aaron Burr and fucking Hamilton, and I'm like, I want to duel this dude. So I legitimately just I'm fired up, I'm motivated. So and because the website is like, it's a pop culture website, I'm like, this is the kick in the ass I needed. I got it fixed. I hit up my host and they like fixed it. And I'm actually gonna host, like, I'm gonna put the all pop no culture stuff on there. And I'm also
cool.
doing some like Robotech shit because like literally I'm telling you a lot about my life, but I had this website called New Jack Swing Forever. So building community around fandom is something I've done for a long time, like since like 2000. Really, I found it in 2002. By like 2004, Time Life Music hit me up. I wrote the liner notes for like a compilation. By 2007, VH1 actually nominated New Jack Swing as a genre for an honor, hip hop honors, and my website was like actually considered the official site for it. We're throwing parties left and right. Then I went broke, and and then I started doing sales. But like, but it all makes sense because before I fell in love with New Jack Swing, I was always a sci-fi anime geek. And like, so I feel like New Jack Swing Forever was kind of like my practice run. And like, I met Bobby Brown, I met Teddy Rod, all those people.
Mm-hmm.
It was my practice run, but now this is the real shit. And it's actually to the point where you're getting a lot about me. And thank you for letting me like monologue here. Like I literally like haven't really gone to cons because I want to go as a civilian. I want to go as like, we have an all pop no culture fucking table, baby. Like you know what I'm saying? Like, so I went to New York Comic Con once, and that was because a friend of mine just had a free ticket. But beyond that, I just kind of don't really have interest. I want to go because I said it. I don't want to be a civilian.
Welcome to the All Pop No Culture podcast. I am your host again this week, Kevin. I am joined this week by Andrew. Andy is out with his lady or something. I don't know what they're doing. They're doing their every other weekend thing. Hopefully they're not making babies. I don't need any more Andys out there. And then Pete, speaking of making babies, is out with his family and his parents are in town, and I don't know. I guess that's important to him. I don't understand why. But whatever, loser. So it's just us again, and we felt pretty good about last week, so we said, "Fuck it, we'll do it again." So here's to hoping that we don't suck. And to keep up with what we did last week, we're going to do the same thing at first. And talk about the classics that are out there right now in Miss Marvel and Stranger Things, and then get into some other stuff. But I want to kick off with the big stuff. So we had, was it episode 4 of Miss Marvel this week?
Is
it 4 of 6?
Yeah, I think it is 4, and it is 4 of 6.
Yeah, so it's already almost done, which is crazy to me, because I don't know quite where it's going. But they've done some really cool stuff. I've really liked, like we said last week, that the educational bit of it's been pretty cool. And it's funny, I saw somebody complaining about how they didn't like the show because it was too educational and focused too much on the family. Oh. And I was like, sorry, bro, those are the things I love. So you won't like, I won't, we won't be on the same page there, because I do love her family. I think they're great.
Yes.
But it's interesting to see where it's going, because like I feel like the one thing that for me was missing this week was her friend, the boy that has a crush on her. Bruno. Bruno. And apparently this week we don't talk about Bruno. And that's kind of a bummer. And then the other dude that was like chasing her because he was Jin wasn't really in it either. He got kind of left by the wayside, and now there's some new boy chasing after her while they're out kung fuing. And so it's interesting. So I mean, what were your thoughts on this episode?
So, I will say this. Obviously, we talk about this show not only on this show, but just outside of the show among our friends. We might be on a text group. I definitely got some feedback from one friend whose opinion I actually do really respect. And he wasn't as enthused about this past episode 4, as the rest of them. So I was trying to be like, no, don't influence my opinion. But it was too late. It sunk in, and I was already ready to be disappointed. That said, I liked it. I did. Do I think it had like the same kind of magic that, like, say the episode where she's like singing to the Dirty Dancing thing? It's amazing. Like, it doesn't have any of that. Okay. If anything, it's like what I heard, about the show before, that it gets really dark. This was like the darkest episode they've done so far.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
there's people dying in it. And like, even that one dude who like is like kind of the leader of the Red Daggers, like he sacrifices himself just to save these two from like a rando chase through the streets, which, by the way, totally reminded me of Civil War in the beginning, like when it was like Captain America going after I think Crossbones. Like, it was that kind of thing. So, this is the episode where I'm kind of going, like you said earlier, like, okay, what is this show? Like, now I'm starting to be a little worried about, what are you trying to be? Like, are you trying to be a whimsical kind of teen take on superherodom, or are you trying to be like this heavy historically based, like, cultural edutainment fest? Or like, what is this? So that's kind of where I'm at. So now 5 and 6 have got to really land this plane. I think it started off strong, but now it is a bit of a head scratcher. I'm engaged, don't get me wrong, but I really need to, like, this was kind of like my Stranger Things season 3 of this show. They can lose me if they don't stick the landing on 4 on 5 and 6. So that's kind of like my initial thoughts.
Yeah, I can see that. The action was cool. There was definitely more action, which is good. I mean, she's coming into her own as a hero, and you see her get more and more of her comic accurate costume, right?
Yes.
The Red Daggers gave her the vest. She's got the mask. She's got these things. So they're putting her together as the story goes, which is kind of neat. But I think there wasn't enough of her family in there for me, and that's, like I said, is what's really special. I definitely missed Bruno. I don't know that for this character and who she is as a character, I don't think she needs a ton of boys chasing after her to make her an interesting character. Now, granted, I don't think this character was necessarily like crushing on her or anything too weird, but he took her to that beach party, and I mean, there's some moments.
There's something there.
So like I don't need her to be like a 16-year-old like semi-sex symbol, right? I think the Bruno thing is cute. If she's not into him because they're best friends or whatever, and then this other guy came along that is, I mean, you look at him in the story and everybody thinks he's handsome, so maybe he's too hunky for her.
Right.
So maybe this guy that they brought in splits the middle, but I'd rather see her ditch the 2 new guys, have a conversation with Bruno, and the show without anybody, than anything else. Although I don't like the idea of anything removing Bruno from future seasons. I like him a lot. He's an important sidekick to her, I think. And I don't know the character in the comics well enough to know that if he's an actual character from the comics or not.
That's a good call.
I don't know what his role is beyond the show. But I definitely, like, her mom was there, and we got to see some moments with her grandma and her mom and her grandma.
Yes.
And a few things there, and there was definitely some education. What it was cool was where it ended. So whatever's happening next week could be really crazy, because she's essentially, I couldn't quite tell if people were seeing her, like if she traveled back in time or if she's just kind of projected herself back in time, to see this event. Right. But it was a trip. It was that last bit of, like you said, edutainment where she gets to the top of the train.
Yep.
And you get an idea of how big this event really was, right? Like
the scale.
There's just train cars everywhere, people everywhere just trying to get out and get, somewhere safe. So the next one will be interesting. I have to assume that if it's going to spend that much time in the past, that we're going to get more of that education. We're going to get more about her great grandma, who
Aisha.
Nobody likes.
Yes.
Yeah. Potentially at least an eye on the second bangle, because I think at some point to fully flesh out her powers, she'll probably get both before the end of the series. I don't know for sure because it's already different. I know in regards to the comics, there's a difference. I think she's an Inhuman in the comics.
Oh wow!
I might be wrong on that.
It's funny. After this show, I'm actually going to finally just read up on the comic version because I even heard that one of the complaints about this show versus the comics is that there is a difference in the source of her powers and maybe even her power sets.
That much I know. So I played the very maligned Avengers video game that came out 1.5 2 years ago now. Mm-hmm. Very pretty game, lots of great voice actors, and the gameplay was just boring as shit. But the main character, that you work around, is actually Miss Marvel. Cool. It opens up with her going, if funny enough, to a fair about the Avengers. She gets hit with some kind of gas that makes her into a superhero, and then she's got all her comic accurate powers. So rather than it being like energy powers like it is in the show, she's almost kind of like Plastic Man or something like that. Like she can, like her fist, you know how she did the thing where her fist comes out and gets all big and punches and comes back, instead of being, crystalline and light powers and all that shit. It's just her hand.
Okay.
And she calls it embiggening in the comics because she's a kid, right? So she got her, her silly names and shit. But she can grow. She can get real big, like almost like Ant-Man. So she can get big. I don't think she can shrink, but she can get bigger, and you can do all that stuff. So as far as I know, the show is a pretty significant shift in the character. But I think it works. I think they had to do that because it really feels like it's at least somehow tied to Shang-Chi and the Eternals, and while she's going to work with Miss Marvel, I don't think she's going to be. I don't think her powers are the same as Captain Marvel, right? Like, right. There's a trailer for something. I think maybe it's a Disney ride that they're doing or something. Did you see this one? So it's got Captain Marvel.
Yes.
It's got Anthony Mackie's Captain America. Yeah, Ant-Man. And then she comes in at the very end. It's fun, but I don't think it's tied to the movie. I think it's just for something going on at the park.
Yeah. Agreed.
But it was cute. It was fun to see. It was fun to see them all together, and like to see her character kind of ogle at Captain Marvel again, right? Because that's her
idol,
her hero. That's another thing that makes the show fun, and we've kind of gotten away from a little bit of the whimsy. And I think the other thing that does bother me a little bit about the last couple episodes is she's already kind of a good fighter. And she wasn't a fighter. Like she was dodging some shit and jumping around, and I was like,
with the whole
I get her stopping attacks. Yeah, like that's fine. But I mean, she was avoiding some punches and kicks, and I was like, so we'll see about that. But I love her. Like she's so fun. Yes. She's obviously is young, but she plays a kid so well, and like that like childlike, demeanor. I've been meaning to go back and rewatch Multiverse of Madness now that it's on Disney Plus, just to see how America Chavez plays a similarly aged character. I think she's a little older.
Yeah.
Well, no, she's 16. Because the actress is 16, and she plays the same age.
Okay.
And that shocked me. I thought the actress was a lot older. She looks
They
more
usually
mature than
are.
16,
Yeah, yeah.
but she's like actually like turned 16 on set or some shit like that. Like she's a wee baby person.
Okay.
So which is, it was just fun for me. It's fun for me to see some of these younger actors kind of coming up, because I think for them, the MCU is like the new Disney Channel, right? Like if you're coming up, it's not a bad place to come up,
No.
right? So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. But yeah, I am still excited for the next episode. I like this one enough. I like this one enough, and I like where it ended. It has me super curious about what's coming next. Like I want to know. Yeah, I really don't care. I want to know more about the what's it called, the
Partition.
And I just want more of her family. Like those are the only two things I need. Like she could defeat the bad guys in the next episode, and then have a whole other episode. Episode 6 could just be about the partition, her getting her powers and hanging out with her family, and I'd be totally cool. Like like I say that I probably wouldn't be, but like the ideas there, like those are the things that I care the most about in this show. I don't care about the red daggers. I don't care much about the Jinn that are coming after her. I care in regards to her, but like as characters, I don't care about them.
Yeah, I almost find them kind of annoying. The Jinn people. All I want from the show ultimately is, one thing I want to say is I actually feel like I still feel overall she's earning her kick-ass ability. Like I like the fact that she was definitely fumbling her way through, I think in the second episode, where she like was trying to save the kid who's hanging. Like I liked that.
Yeah.
So the things do feel a bit earned. But yeah, to your point, like, yeah, she is getting pretty dope at fighting. And maybe powers just do that to you. Who knows? Like
I don't have them, so I don't know.
Because I mean, Hawkeye, there are definitely some crazy stunts happening there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I want a point. I want to point to all this. It's great that we're getting the family. It's great that we're getting the context. It's great that we're getting the cultural education. But I still, at the end of the day, want to know like how and why this matters.
Right.
Because that's the one thing I do kind of feel was missing from Moon Knight, I think. I feel like it was its own story, but I wanted it to somehow, even just tangentially tie to the greater narrative. Because I think that's what makes the MCU so special, that everything's so interwoven.
Supposedly we're getting that first hint here in the next couple of months, I think, according to Feige. I don't know if you posted it or if I just saw the article, but there was something out there too today that said that while Thor Love and Thunder won't necessarily feature the Egyptian gods from Moon Knight, the creators of Moon Knight worked really closely with Thor Love and Thunder, like storytellers and scriptwriters, to make sure that anything that was there, because we're talking about gods in both stories, that it lines up, that it works.
I actually that's pretty cool.
Yeah, okay. I think it was posted by IGN, and I was like, cool. Like they don't have to tie together, but it's still good to see. This is one of those things that that Marvel does, where they're just keeping everything in line. Even if it doesn't overlap, even if it doesn't overlap for like 5 years, at some point they might have to come back and do this, and they've already laid that groundwork, which I think is pretty cool. So that was interesting for me to see how, when you've got Gore the God Butcher and you're talking about Thor meeting Greek gods and Roman gods and all this shit. So it's it'll be interesting. It'll be really interesting.
Yeah.
And speaking of Love and Thunder, that comes out next week.
For some reason, and I feel almost blasphemous for saying this, I'm not that excited. I know that's weird. I'm gonna see it, don't get me wrong. But I think in a way, because I'm not that excited, I'm gonna get my mind blown because let me tell you, when I went to go see Ragnarok, I was not expecting much. And as soon as the movie started and he's like hanging, you know, in the chains,
In chains.
I'm like, yo, like, okay, this is already the shit because like what is happening? And in the whole movie, it just never stopped. And it just felt like, so and I also like the fact that there's so many people like Hulk, like Loki, they were all in it. So to have
Yeah.
the Guardians in this one, and like be pretty much fully like fledged in there, yeah, like it's gonna be dope. But again, I don't know why I'm not as like about it. But
Well, I really enjoy Taika's work as a director. Sometimes as an actor, he can be a little over the top, and he kind of, you know, he over Taikas. But as a director, I think he's great. Did you ever see Jojo Rabbit?
I did not. That's the one with the Hitler parody or something like that.
Oh, dude, that
Okay.
movie is so good because it's funny. Like the kid's fucking adorable. Uh, Taika's Hitler is somehow hilarious, right? Like I it shouldn't be, but it is. And then and Scarlett Johansson's great in it.
Oh, okay. It's got
And
to.
then there's a moment in middle end of it that will just fucking tear your heart out. And it's so brilliant and it's so simple, and it just, you see it and you're just like, fuck, like it's heavy. And it changes the course of the whole movie, and it's a brilliant movie. I saw it, I must have seen it on one of my flights where I was coming back from Italy, I think is when I saw it, because I seem to see the most movies that I've been waiting for or struggling with on planes, right? Not that I travel that much. It's just when I do, that's where I catch them. But yeah, I can't recommend it enough. It's such a weird plot and a weird story to try to explain, because it sounds so preposterous, and it sounds like it shouldn't work, and it sounds like it so like blasphemous. I mean, you have Hitler on screen being ridiculous, and this kid who is your main character idolizes Hitler because he's a German kid growing up in Germany during World War II. But fuck, it's yeah. I would say if you can squeeze that in anytime soon before you forget about it, do it. So good.
Well, I'm noticing here the budget was only 14 million, which is pennies, I think, in today's dollars to make a movie. I mean, yeah, the budget was 14 million. The box office was 90. So that says a lot. I know people like, oh, it's not about the money, but like, yeah, fine. But this is an indie film that made a shitload of money. So clearly it resonated. So okay, I'm sold. I'm sold.
Speaking of money in films, before we move on to Stranger Things, and apparently we don't need Pete to go on tangents.
Scored this, dude.
What's that?
Michael
Giacchino scored.
Fucking Jojo Rabbit. Sold.
See, you're in.
All right.
I love Giacchino. But speaking of money, it was funny to see that post. I think you put it up there about how Warner has now said that they basically have to release The Flash in theaters. Like, it doesn't matter about the bad publicity. It doesn't matter that Ezra's kidnapping children and families left and right. But like, on the one hand, like from a business standpoint, I get it. If you put $200 million into a movie, you either don't put it out and take a $200 million bath. It's $500 million. That's a lot of money. And so if you put it out and everybody says, I'm not going, and say it only makes 50 million, at least you only lost $150 million. I will not see it in the theater. I may not even watch it if it's on HBO, which is disappointing because before I knew he was a complete fucking psycho baby, he was the best part of the Justice League.
Yes, that moment.
Like, I was excited for this movie. Yeah, I was excited for this movie, and now I'm not. And I, I hope it bombs, because like, he doesn't deserve any credit for it. But like, I feel bad for Michael Keaton. I feel bad for like all these people that put their time and money into it.
You know what I would do? Honestly, I would kill him off. I would literally shoot a scene in the fucking movie where his ass dies. I don't know if you have to CGI his face on it, whatever. Kill him off, introduce a new Flash in the movie, and then
just
boom,
just reshoot half of the films, or scenes, something.
Kill him off, dude.
Yeah, it's so heartbreaking to me that it was a film with a lot of potential, which is weird for a Marvel or for a DC film, but it had Keaton, like it had. I mean, I think Affleck's in it, so fuck him. But Keaton was in it, like, and I was like, oh,
Affleck is in it.
Yeah,
he's totally in it.
So
it's a multi movie.
Yeah, there. So right there, I hope it bombs, but. Yeah, it's such a weird place to be in. So it's such a it's not fair to Warner, because I mean, yeah, they hired the guy,
yes,
but they didn't hire him knowing that he was.
We talked about this last week, though, man. We talked, like I say, like attracts like. Okay,
that is true.
It's true. Like, you had that bad juju, and you just fucking attracted more bad juju, and it's not just him. It's like everybody that you seem to work with has some sort of issue. Whether it's they're talking shit about you or they legitimately have problems, or it's like, what's his name? Like even Joss Whedon, who apparently is like, abusing people or something.
Yeah, he's a total dick. Although Nathan Fillion came out and said he'd work with him again.
Yes, which I felt like, I'm not going to do that. But did you hear, on a related note, we are tangenting a bit about apparently there's a rumor that Henry Cavill is going to be in like a after credit scene of
I saw something that they mentioned Amanda Waller, and they mentioned Superman, because I guess Amanda Waller says something like she has something that can battle Black Adam.
Yes.
And I'm like, well, where the fuck is Shazam? Like, why do you need to start with Superman? Like, Shazam and Black Adam are natural enemies in the comics. And don't get me wrong, I love Cavill's Superman. If you're going to do Superman in the DCEU right now, he's the guy. You can't cast somebody else. It's got to be Cavill. Find somebody that can make him a little lighter, a little more likable, because Cavill's a fucking cool dude.
Yeah.
Like, you can make him likable, like Tyler Hoechlin in Superman and Lois, which I'll actually talk about in a little while. But I think they just never quite got him right. But I do love Cavill, and I think if they're going to have Superman show up, it's got to be him. But why not Shazam? Why is Shazam not the guy showing up to fight Black Adam?
My hope is Shazam actually is in Black Adam, and maybe I'm giving Warner Brothers way too much credit, but I'm hoping that he does show up at some point in the movie. We'll see. He's getting his own movie as well. Like,
he's getting a second one, which is another movie that DC almost got right. But that's the one that struggled with not quite knowing if it was a kid's movie or an adult movie. Yeah. And it's just, I'm done. Right. DC can suck it. So going from people that don't know what the fuck they're going to people that do know what they're doing.
My God.
Our friends, the Duffer Brothers. We lauded them last week, and then part 2 of season 4 came out, and I've got to laud them again. I have no complaints about somehow having 5 hours and 2 episodes of television to watch, or whatever it was. It was an astronomical amount of the time to take in for 2 episodes.
Yeah.
And it wasn't enough. Like it went so quickly, and it was a gut punch. I don't know what the reason was for splitting it up. I don't know that they necessarily had to, unless there was a budgetary reason or an editing reason or something. I don't know why they split it in 2. I mean, it ended in a fine spot to pause for a month. When it did, because like it was fine. Like you had Nancy in peril. you got your Vecna story, you got your origin story for Vecna, and they closed out that opening shot from the season where it seemed like the entire part one of the season, it looked like Elle was the bad guy and had killed all the kids, which I didn't know what the explanation was when the season started, but the first thing I thought was no way it was actually her. Like I couldn't believe it. And so, as they started barreling down, I figured out that the dude was one. Like, like I said, I think I said it last week. Like I wasn't quite sure if like he was projecting himself into her mind somehow, like, because I didn't see him interact with other kids very often. So I couldn't quite tell if he was actually there and was manipulating her or what. And then when it was the chip in the neck, I was like, fuck, there you go. And like, as soon as she's like, I can get it out for you, I was like, don't do it. But yeah, this one, where does it open? It opens with it's still Nancy, right?
Yeah, Nancy's basically trying to get away from Vecna, and basically that whole scene ends with Vecna like showing Nancy like his vision for the future,
his master plan.
Yeah, and that was freaky.
Yeah, it was interesting too, because it's kind of that Scooby-Doo thing, right? Or that movie thing where the bad guy tells you what they're going to do, and then you're like, oh, well, we're going to stop you because we know exactly what you're going to do. But it was cool. Like, it was just a good couple episodes. We got Master of Puppets back behind me. That scene was dope.
Yes.
Like, I figure, let's just say we're going to spoil some shit. So I don't want to have to hold back. If you like Stranger Things, we're going to spoil it. It was only 2 episodes. If you have to pause here and go watch for a couple hours and come back, please do.
Actually, before you even jump into that, let me just say a couple of things. First of all, okay, we're recording this not even like, it's Saturday night, okay? This dropped last night. It was Thursday. It was like Thursday at midnight. And then,
so let me tell you how pissed I was, because I was going to start watching it Friday morning at midnight. So roll Thursday. Well, it didn't drop until midnight Pacific. And I wasn't about to stay up till 3 a.m. Like, I put on Netflix and I'm like refreshing. And I was like, what the fuck is going on? And I finally looked it up. And I was like, you son of a bitch. So yeah.
I actually, it's such bullshit. I started it Friday night and then finished it Saturday morning, but just innocently scrolling, dude, scrolling through my feed, I got spoiled. Yeah, dude. It was just like, and I'm like, well, I could say it now, right? Who cares, right?
Yeah.
They were like, Eddie, you were the best. And I was like, no. And I was upset. I'm like, fuck, now I know he dies. Like, this is some bullshit. Like, I was like, it just takes away the gravitas. So, but I'm like, sure as me right for fucking scrolling. But I thought it would be, dude, at least wait the weekend and before you start posting shit. No, some asshole.
Yeah. It's so disappointing that people can't like hold out on that.
But
yeah. So yeah, it sucks because I liked Eddie, but they built him up exactly like they built up everybody else that they killed off that you like. You got it with Samwise in season 2. Like
you said Samwise.
Yeah, like, it's just you build them up, you get to like them.
Samwise and Billy,
and they kill them. That's why, because I think it was either in our comments or it was on one of yours where I think it was Leah. Shout out to Leah, who said that she was afraid they were keeping Jonathan off screen because they were going to kill him off.
Yeah.
And my argument was, I think that's exactly the reason they're going to keep him alive, because the Duffer Brothers want you to care about the people they kill, right? If they're going to kill somebody, they want it to hurt you. And if they're keeping Jonathan out of the big picture, to me, that keeps him safe. And I don't think he was ever really in danger, other than like the gunfight in their house,
which was pretty
I don't
rough.
think. Yeah. But I don't think other than that, I don't think he was ever in any real danger, right? They were so far removed from everything else. that it was other than.
Can I say something, by the way, as well? Just
Yeah.
like one thing I really think is like when you do a good job of storytelling, like because it's so hard to do, is when you split up your main cast and keep them apart for pretty much the entire time, but still tell a damn but still tell a damn good story. That to me is like, okay, you guys are masters at that. And yes, this is a shameless plug, although I don't work for them, for Attack on Titan. But like the first half of season 2, like the main characters aren't even there, dude. Like it's a whole new kind of group, you know. And then when the main characters do come, it's like a cavalry, and like, this is okay, it's really on now, and then you continue from there. So, but this show, there was no cavalry moment, not really. I mean, the closest we got, of course, is like, well, we'll talk about it, but like, Eleven's doing her Professor X thing, you know. But like beyond that, there really isn't that much of a cavalry moment. But it's great to see them all come back together in the end. But it also reminds you that this whole fucking season, the chemistry that made this show work was handicapped. It kept them apart, and it still ended up being. I gotta watch season 1 again. I do, but right this moment, this is my favorite season. I for me right now, this is my favorite season because things came to a head. I'm already having visions of the helicopter shit. Like shit got wild. We'll talk about Dr. Brenner. Like, yo, what? So anyway, I cut you off. I don't remember why I cut you off, but like I just had to jump in there with that.
Yeah, there was just so much good stuff. I mean, you had the Hopper getting out, right? And then having to go
back. That sword fight though, dude. First of all, he was about to be Samwised because he was literally on the ground. He's holding its like jaws closed. Like shit's not looking good, right? Fucking MVP, you know, when Nona shows up, and then she's like Joyce stabs the thing. Yo, okay, that's the barometer or the barrier or that's the bar. Okay, I'm a single dude. If you're not like Joyce Byers, like there's no love. Like you need to be a Joyce Byers for me to like give up my freedom. Anyway, so you know, and then, but dude, that was just okay. They run in, they flambe like the fucking Demogorgons and Demodogs and shit. Demogorgon's still there, and he picks up the sword. Like what? Like what? Yo, all praises to the Duffers. They didn't have to do that. He could just go ramp to the balcony and flambéed, but no, he had to be like the fucking knight, like standing there like Jon Snow, waiting for like, you know, Ramsay Bolton's like army to approach. And he runs first. He runs towards the Demogorgon, slices his arm off like Voltron.
Yeah, takes his arm off.
Then he just takes off the head. Yeah, I got excited. Takes off the head. And then even like, you know, when the way I'm forgetting his name. Anyway, the one guy says to
Murray,
the faceless guy says to the asshole Yuri, you know, you were a soldier once. Like he actually is able to like, you're not a coward. Like he's able to get him to come around. Yuri actually came around. I hated Yuri. I fucking hated
him. Yuri fucking sucked, man.
But like he actually he was able to find Yuri's humanity, and that was good. Okay, I'm ranting now, dude. Rant. It's your turn. Go.
Well, the one thing that I was going to point out is you brought it up, and I called it a while back too, is that there's definitely that Will is gay moment. Like that is 100% there. And I think, you know, I read some really good reviews and really interesting things about how, you know, it's just, there's no way, even though Will is in love with Mike, like you can just tell, like that's his guy. There's no way it's going to happen. Like Mike is so straight, you know, like he saw Elle, he's been in love with Elle since day one, like Mike and Elle forever. And so that was just never going to be a thing. And maybe, you know, that's hard. And so he knows that's true. And that's why you have that scene where he pulls that in and then, you know, supports his buddy. Yeah. and then turns his head away and cries. And on top of that, there's the moment with Jonathan where Jonathan catches the whole thing.
Yeah.
And
Jonathan,
he knows. Yeah, and he knows. And so I thought that was impressive. I think the things that they did in season 3 with Robin and her coming out moment to Steve, because like that moment's hilarious because he's just like, fine, we're gonna do this thing, because they're high and they've barfed in the movie and they've done all their shit. They're having their moment, and he's like, fine, we'll be lovers in the night. And she's like, sorry, bro, I don't do dudes. And then you've got this one, and I think it's good storytelling for the era that the story is being told.
Exactly.
If the story was told today, the girl would just be like, yeah, I'm a lesbian, whatever.
Exactly.
And it wouldn't be a big deal. And Will would be I'm gay. Maybe it'd be hard, because they're young, whatever. But not impossible. Like there would be other gay characters around.
What I thought was really cool and realistic again was Will actually says sometimes you feel like a mistake. So like Will is legitimately actually struggling with a bit of self-loathing. He feels like, why am I a fuck up? What's wrong with me? Because, but he has such an amazing heart, because again, I thought it was so selfless of him to like kind of shepherd Mike towards Elle, knowing it was breaking his heart the entire fucking time. I don't know, man. That was just, we're so, again, what I like about this show and about this season 2 was just there's so much heart. And I talk about how, Spider-Man No Way Home had a lot of heart, but I think this series is just, it's heart. It's authenticity and it's heart. And even like, the scene with Joyce and Hopper, where they're ready to go. Like, like they changed to the new clothes. Yeah. They're ready to go. They get interrupted, but it's like, and he's like, I was looking forward to the, what was it? The breadsticks,
the pasta, the Italian food. Yeah.
Is that all? And like, it all just felt so real. So, so you talked about something I brought up. I want to talk about something that you brought up. So I'm going to give you props as well. This is for everybody listening, okay? We might have talked about this in the last show. I think it was you, Kevin, you were saying that Vecna might very well be behind the whole thing, like seasons 1 and 2 and 3. And I was caught up in another theory I read. Like, no. Vecna is like the general. Like he's like the lieutenant who's able to open portals himself that the Mind Flayer can then use. No. Vecna is like straight up primeval evil. He is like the G godfather of this whole operation. That is crazy that 11 in a way kind of created this dude. But yeah, you called it, Kev. You called it. It's been Vecna.
Yeah, that was a cool scene, right? Because it explains it explains what they didn't finish explaining in episode 7.
Yeah.
Because it actually shows him kind of land in this desolate, dead place, and and then he goes through and he sees the clouds, and he's like, fuck it, I'm gonna make this thing, which it shows him drawing as a kid. Like he had created in his mind as a kid, which was kind of trippy because it's the same basic drawing that Will drew in season 2.
There's a connection, dude.
Yeah.
And that's it. I'm getting chill again. Like, and I got to watch season 1 because literally Will's the first one that the Mind Flayer went after and it got him into the Upside Down. So like, what is it? Like, why is Will the Harry Potter to Vecna's Voldemort? Like, what's going on here?
Right. Yeah. What and why did he leave enough of himself in there? Just like Voldemort, it's a great example that Will feels him all the time. Like Will knows that he's not dead, even though Hey, look, you look pretty dead. But I guess, I guess if you die in the upside down, rules are a little different, especially you die in the place you created. Um, you know, the other thing that was interesting, and I was waiting for it to happen, is when 11 um, uh, brings Max back to life, basically. I wasn't sure how it would work. Wasn't sure what it would look like, but I just had a feeling that was going to happen. Because there's nothing that tells us that she does or does not have that power, but I felt like that was coming in when she finally she's like fuck no, and then she does her thing, and then it cuts away, so we don't know what she went through, and whatever it was that keeps Max alive doesn't seem like it did the best job, because right. Max is in a coma. She goes into Max's head and can't find Max. Max's bones are still broken and all that. So yeah, that was an interesting one too.
So another thing I wanted to bring up really quick was, I like the fact that there is finally closure with Dr. Brenner. I think that he is a big part of season 1, obviously.
Yeah.
And he was a big part of this season. And what I like about TV shows as well is when you're able to identify with certain plot points because they actually can resonate with things that happen in real life. I'll keep it real. Like, I think I'm a pretty nice guy, so I think I've had situations in life where you might kind of have people in your life who claim to be acting in your best interest, but that in a way they're really just trying to, get their way, and they see you as a way to get that. And I love what Vecna said about he's an ordinary man, a mediocre guy who's trying to use us because he sees that power and he wants it. He wants it for himself. So when she's ready to go to, save her friends, and he goes all evil Yoda on her and says, "You're not ready." And he's like, "No, I'm going anyway." And then Burke from Aliens, Paul Reiser, is like, "You're going," and then of course he's like detained or whatever. Shit goes haywire. The general shows up. It's literally like, that's Evangelion, dude. Evangelion has a scene where like another army storms the base and kills everybody. Like, that was some Evangelion shit. I think Duffer is totally got that from that. Anyway, and then Renner is like running with Elle in his arms, trying to get away. The fucking helicopter like shoots him like several times, so he's like fatally shot. I know you guys have already seen this, but I have to relive this shit. Okay, he's lying on the ground and he's like, and like he's dying and shit. He releases the collar again. That's also some Evangelion shit. And then he's like, he's dying, and there's something about a dying man's wish, right? You want to honor the dying man's wish, okay? So he's literally asking 11, this fucking abusive asshole, is like, "Tell me you understand. Tell me you understand, right?" And I'm like, wow, in your dying breath, you're still trying to manipulate me. And even if you aren't trying to, that you truly believe this shit, fuck you. How dare you? But instead of being like, "Yes, I understand," just because you're a nice person. No, fuck that. Have boundaries, okay? That's number one. Now, number two, she didn't say fuck you. She didn't be mean. She just did exactly what you should do in life whenever you are in a toxic situation. Leave, disconnect. And she just says goodbye. And I just thought that was so beautiful. And I think that anyone watching who, like, whether it's a show or this podcast, who has that kind of situation in your life, it is totally okay. I'm getting preachy now. It is totally okay to disconnect and cut off from that toxin. maybe nobody's all bad, okay? Like Brenner wasn't probably all bad, but he was bad enough, and she's better off without him. And I loved that scene, and I hope that everyone who has to deal with that got something from it. I know I did. So anyway, I thought that was beautifully done.
Yeah, and I think he's an interesting character. It's almost a bummer that they killed him off because, you know, you're never going to get that true explanation as to why he even kept one around. You know, he like, why do you keep one around, and why do you turn him into an orderly and have him be around all these kids and just tighten his powers when you could either lock him in a cage somewhere and keep experimenting on him, which I mean, sort of was what they were doing.
You know what?
In a way, I guess, but
yeah, I think he was a puppet master. I think he just got off on being able to like heal, as in like heal, like dog heal. Like he got off on that shit, dude. He liked being able to like even when like you know she turns around, he stabs her with the tranquilizer. He just gets off. Some people just get off on controlling others. You know, he even controlled Paul Reiser. Like they're supposed to be partners, and he just he's a I don't know if this narcissist is not the right word, but he just always wants to be puppet master, and that's why I think. But I also think in a sick way, like he's just a puppet master. He doesn't care how dangerous the being
he
is.
doesn't, because he knew from the beginning how dangerous the kid was.
Yeah, he kills
and he's like, that's cool, we can work with this. You're like, wait, dude, what? And so it was definitely a complex character. Like, I'd like to have the opportunity to see more about him.
Maybe we will.
Yeah,
they're pretty good at flashbacks. Also, side note, I don't know if you knew this about Matthew Modine and Millie Bobby Brown. He actually lived with their family for a while. Like that, they're that close as actors. And they did that specifically because for season 1 they wanted to make sure that their the dynamic was as real as possible. So that had to be rough to like watch someone that you grew up with literally like act out the death scene with them.
Yeah, it's cool. Like there's just not a lot I was gonna say there's just not a lot they got wrong. Like I said, we got the scene
Eddie,
behind me.
Dude, thank you. Like that's where I was gonna go next.
Just that scene was so dope when he goes and pulls down his axe, and he's like, I think she's been waiting for this, and fucking he jams out the Master of Puppets. It was just so dope. Like that was such a great song to be jamming to, and it set like the tone for everything around them so well. And then he finally has his hero moment, because he's not a hero, he says.
We're not.
But man, it sucked to see him go, man. He went out like a boss, but it sucked to see him go. It was a tough scene, and I felt bad for Dustin.
Yes.
But it was in these 2 episodes that you had the moment where Eddie tells Steve just how much Dustin looks up to him, though, right? That was in these 2.
I believe so. I
like they're walking through the. I think it's when they're walking through the woods the second time. So they've come back to the Upside Down to go kill Vecna, because this is like these last 2 episodes where they have the whole plan. So they go in, they do the whole thing, and I think it's when they're walking through the woods in the Upside Down that he tells him, he's like, that kid looks up to you, so much, and that was a special moment too. But like that's just one of those things, you get that moment and you're like, fuck, this kid's gonna die. Like, I know Steve was on the chopping block. Like you can just tell from the story standpoint, like
on the block.
Like they could have killed him, and everybody would have been just damaged, but they would have been, understanding, like that's the story, whatever. It was actually really surprising to me how many people walked away from this unscathed.
Thank you.
I really thought there was going to be a lot more. Like I
said, there was 5. Did you count 5? I didn't count 5.
I mean,
I
if you
counted maybe
count Max, there's three. I mean, who else?
Yeah. Well, the
Because
jock guy, who I was okay with.
yeah, but he's still alive, right?
Nah, he died, dude.
Oh
Like,
no, that's right. He died
yeah, he split in two.
yeah.
And I was like, yes.
Yeah. Well, he was an asshole.
He was such an asshole.
Um,
Fuck that guy. Oh,
so
so that's
that's
four.
okay. So that's four if you count Max. But then who's?
Brenner, I guess.
Is Vecna? I mean, he
Wait,
sort of died.
Did we say Brenner already? Was Brenner one of them?
I think so, because you got Brenner, you got Eddie, you got
Max.
the jock, you got Max.
Well, I guess Vecna. That doesn't really
Vecna, yeah, I don't know. But him and Max aren't really dead, so.
So here's my other question, right? So the fact that Max died, though, that was it. That was the fourth chime. Shit's fucked. Like, I liked that because it was like, okay, I love narratives where the heroes fucking lose. So like Infinity War, that's why I love that fucking movie so much, because they fucking lost, you know, in this show called Robotech. Like the second season, like whatever, they lose. Like, and that's why the third season happens, because a new fucking invasion happens. Like, so it's like, because sometimes I'm like, it bees like that, man. But honestly, Stranger Things has always been like this kind of whims, like it's dark, but it's whimsy at the same time, because it's like 80s nostalgia, like fucking uh the never ending story type shit. Nah, not this season, you know. So it's like Max is getting all like, what, you know. Fucking Lucas is getting his ass.
Well, and you see her, like, even her eyes are starting to go like,
yeah, she can't see, and then she's like, she can't see. It's like, I don't want to die, I want to die, I want to die, I'm dead, you know. Anyway, like, yeah, dude. And then all of a sudden those fucking, the dust starts like swirling around, like they're in the fucking upside down, you know. Like, you know what, in a way, I think it was Leah again, actually. Hi, Leah. You posted, I need season 5 to start like tomorrow. You're gonna make us wait after an ending like that? Like, what? Anyway, I know we've given a lot of airtime to Stranger Things season 4, so if you guys are like ready for us to move on, we can. We didn't really talk that much about some other things like Jonathan and Steve and Nancy, that whole thing. Because can I say, I think feeling awkward, I just did it. I'm just gonna keep talking. Okay, feeling awkward is like one of the worst things you can feel, and I feel like right now, shit's awkward between Nancy and Jonathan, because
right.
he even goes like, are we okay? And she's like, yeah, we're totally okay. Like, yeah, no, we're not. And Steve is like, this is some bullshit, but whatever. And I'm glad at least that Robin finally got a chance to talk to Molly Ringwald. And yes, they totally did a Molly Ringwald moment in that damn show when she kissed that guy. But anyway, yeah, this isn't the Stranger Things podcast. This is All Pop No Culture. So if we are ready to move on, I will relent. I apologize, but I'm just very fanned out about this thing.
Yeah, I think I think we can move on, but point out that it did end in a very Infinity War kind of way. Like, this is potentially bleak as shit. And then what we talked about before we started recording was that supposedly there's a time jump between season 4 and season 5. And the only thing I can see that being is like a Mad Max scenario where, you know, everybody's been fighting for X number of years, and now we're down to the bitter end, you know. Like, I don't quite understand how that's going to go. So we'll
say
see
the
there.
Duffers actually wrote this letter, and they talk about how, like, we've been planning this journey for a long time. And I think they referred to this season as the beginning of the end. And so you gotta chill, beginning of the end. And maybe also, if we are going Mad Max here, that also makes the show feel more real, because it's not going to bump up against like our reality. So it's almost like this is like an Elsewhere tale. This is Earth 615, not Earth 616.
Right. Yeah, so we'll see, man. I don't know. I'm ready for it. I'm excited, but I don't know. So moving on, let's go with the other big thing right now, The Boys. I haven't watched it. You have. Tell me some shit.
All right, The Boys, season 3. So I talked about Jensen Ackles, who of course is playing Soldier Boy, who is basically your evil Captain America. I'm not going to talk too much about this because I don't want to spoil too much, but what I will say is that this season has really shown Homelander, who is kind of like this very powerful, like Superman analog. Homelander in Soldier Boy, this is the first time that Homelander's really had anyone who can really fuck with him. Like Homelander actually got his, I can talk about this. Homelander almost got killed, basically, because he got triple teamed by Soldier Boy, Huey, and what's his name? Billy Butcher. Because Billy Butcher and Huey are now taking this like temporary V, compound V, which is like turns into superheroes. And so Huey can teleport. Butcher is strong and has eye beams. And of course, Soldier Boy is Soldier Boy. And they literally do this fight between the three of them. The four of them was like one of the dopest superhero fights I've seen like ever. Like it was that good. Anyway, he almost got killed. So Homelander gets away, flies away. He's like terrified. And he's now realizing that I'm no longer king shit. Now there is a twist involving Soldier Boy and Homelander. And Kevin, you already know, like you're pretty good at storytelling, so you can probably already figure out what the twist is. But it just got dropped this particular season, this particular last episode. And I'm like, yeah, that changes things substantially. Like, how is this going to go? Soldier Boy's pissed off because he was the leader. He was like the comedian, if you will, of an earlier group of superheroes. And they all got sick of his ass and basically like subdued him. They thought he was dead, but he was actually just like shipped off to Russia and was being experimented on because he's basically like unkillable. But now that Soldier Boy's back, he's on the hunt to kill off every single supe who was on his original team. And he's been doing that this season. All I'll say about The Boys ultimately is it's still a show that explores like what happens when people get superpowers and are they good or are they bad? And of course, as you've heard me say before, most of the time they're bad. As a matter of fact, I can't think of a single character in that show. He was like, well, I can think of one. There's one character there's two. There's two characters in the show with superpowers who are purely good. The rest of them are all flawed, if not complete assholes. Yeah. And but it's compelling shit. It's all I'll say is like if you're not watching it, just get on it. Especially if you are not one. Here's the thing I've noticed about The Boys too. If you're not a superhero person, like you don't like Marvel, if you don't like DC, you probably will like The Boys because you actually think of this as more believable because it's real people and they're doing crazy things and it's funny, including like the Aquaman guy having sex with octopuses and shit.
Octopus, yeah.
You heard about that? Yeah, that was pretty funny, dude. So yeah, no. All I'll say is, I keep saying all I'll say is watch it if you haven't. And Jensen is kicking ass as a suit. So
very cool. I do love him. I think I'm curious to see, what this does for his career long term. Will he get more superhero parts? Will he get bigger roles? Because he was Dean Winchester for 15 years, so this character has to be a shift for him. And it is in his acting and in his style a little bit. So we'll see what it does for him.
Oh, totally random because I'm thinking about things. Both Stranger Things and The Boys featured a song called Dream a Little Dream of Me. Like that song is really cool. It's just a very, you guys know that song. It's like, it's just classic 40s stuff. And in Stranger Things, it was with the original with, I want to say, oh man, Louis Armstrong and some other singer, right? And then The Boys, it was somebody else, but I just had to call that out. And Paul Reiser is in both Stranger Things and The Boys, because Paul Reiser plays this kind of what's his name? Clive Davis. He plays a Clive Davis kind of record mogul type. Like he has a very thick, like kind of, East Coast accent. And like, he talks about all like the crazy shit that he did back in the day, all the girls he smashed, like, anyway. But it's just funny how that the similarities are there between the two shows. Just cool coincidences. I like Paul. I think Paul is a very, I think he's a bit of an underrated actor because he's
it feels like a bit of a renaissance for him. Like I hadn't seen him in a while.
Yeah.
And then
and
then you had him in Stranger Things. You got him in The Boys. I think he was just something else too. Like I'd like to see him make a good solid comeback and stick around for a little while. I like him.
To answer your question though, I think I said this last week. I do think Jensen will get more, and if the MCU does pick him up, I will feel so validated because he should be in it. He should be in it as something or someone because he's that good, and I don't think it's wrong to cross-pollinate between actors because you already have, like, Butcher has been in the MCU at least once because he was in Thor Ragnarok.
Yeah,
but I don't know if that was before or after, but yeah,
he's been in the MCU. He's actually been in a lot. He was in a few things. He was in Xena.
Yeah, that was
Xena, Warrior Princess.
Both him and Homelander were in Xena.
Yeah, that was the other one. He's been in Lord of the Rings. I mean, he's been around. The Star Trek reboot.
First time I actually noticed him was in Chronicles of Riddick. Did you ever see that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he was Vaco. He was the kind of the treacherous guy who tried to kill the main necromonger, but then was foiled. And it was what's her name? Damn it! Yo, you know what also started? No one cares about. Why does nobody care about Westworld? Didn't Westworld already start? Is anybody even watching it?
It lost me in the third season.
Yeah, I think it lost everybody.
Yeah, because the first season was fucking genius. Second season was solid. Third season, just like
it was anymore. It wasn't even on the reservation. So like, why are we watching this? Tanny Newton. So Tanny Newton was basically Vaco's kind of mistress type. Like she was trying to orchestrate the whole thing. And I know he was also in one of the Bourne movies. But anyway, and of course he was in Dredd. So he's a legend. He's a legend. But Billy Butcher. I forgot. Yes, about The Boys as well. You learn about Billy Butcher's background and his history and why he's so cynical and why he calls everybody cunt and why, he's like, his story, his backstory is really compelling and why he has such a brotherly relationship with Huey. So yeah, man, I can't believe I almost forgot to say that dude, watch The Boys, get on that. There's so much more.
Yeah, I gotta get on it. I'm behind on it for sure.
It's funny too. So speaking of funny shit, did you mention something about? Did you want to talk about like the Bill and Ted? Not Bill and Ted. Holy shit! Why did I say
Beavis and Butthead do the universe? I had no desire to watch this, and then I saw a trailer for it, and I was like, "Fuck it, I'll watch it." And so I did tonight because I had some time. And if you never got into Beavis and Butthead at all, like if it wasn't your jam, I can't see somebody just up and watching this movie and loving it without the context.
Yeah.
Like it's not for somebody looking to get into Beavis and Butthead. All of the gags are, all of the gags are the same, right? It's all about them hoping that they're going to get laid, right? Like, it's all them being so stupid that everything is innuendo to them, even though it's not. Um, and like it all starts, they're at a science fair for their school in 1998. They're at a high school science fair, which they completely destroy. And then, as would only happen in a cartoon series, the judge decides to punish them by sending them to space camp, where they do something completely stupid that gets misinterpreted by, the folks running the space program. So they decide to make them astronauts, take them into space. They end up going through a black hole, which shoots them forward in time to 2022. But when, they think they're going to space because in their mind, the lead astronaut, the woman, has told them that she wants to have sex with them in space. She hasn't. And so the rest of the movie is them trying to chase her down so they can do it.
You can score.
Yeah. And I mean, it is 100% Beavis and Butthead. Like you brought up Beavis and Butthead Do America. I think I saw that one in the theater.
Wow.
Hilarious movie if you like Beavis and Butthead. But again, I mean, that's the target audience. If you didn't watch Beavis and Butthead, this is just flat out not for you. There's no way.
Does Cornholio show up?
Yes.
You know what? I'm
yes. And it's funny. Like, if again, you have to be a fan of that, or at least have been entertained by it a little bit. But yes, Cornholio does show up, and it is
that's all.
It's fantastic.
That's all it needs to know.
And when it's over, it's 86 minutes. When it's over, you're just kind of like, I guess I watched that. Like, wow. It is very much Beavis and Butthead. Like, no point, nothing redeeming about it, really. It's just there. But it was fun.
I think Beavis and Butthead really is like a hallmark of like our generation. Like, you had to be like that and Celebrity Deathmatch and like that whole, Daria's a little later, but like, it's like that was like, if you were like in high school or junior high, or even maybe even like in like early college, I'd say between like 92 and like 99, then you probably get Beavis and Butthead if you actually liked it. So that's pretty nostalgic.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm surprised. So there was no like music video. Yeah, they don't do that anymore, right? It was just literally, it was a full-on movie like Beavis and Butthead.
It was Do America. It was just, they just do the universe instead of doing America. And that was it. That, like I said, there's not much to look back on and be like, God, I really love that. It was so great. It was Beavis and Butthead. It's
funny you say that, because I'm going to jump in here for a second. This last week I told everybody that I went and saw like G.I. Joe the movie, because like this is an animated stuff. We may as well just talk animated stuff really quick. I will say, like, as a guy in his 40s now, when I liked G.I. Joe, I was more in my 8, 9, 10 era.
I was gonna say, not even a teenager. We were young. Yeah.
Man, I wouldn't like, if someone had never seen G.I. Joe, like, I don't think I would actually have them watch the movie, because I wouldn't want them to judge me. I'm not saying, I'm saying it's not a very good movie. It's nostalgia's there. There's some cool scenes, but overall, like, I'll just kind of go through the plot very quickly.
Well, this one was made for TV, right? It was a TV movie. It was not theatrical,
I'm
right?
so glad you asked that question. All right, check this out. So Sunbow, which was the production company that worked with Marvel Entertainment to make their animation for Hasbro, they made My Little Pony the movie. They made the Care Bears movie. They made Transformers the movie, and they made G.I. Joe the movie. They started on G.I. Joe first, but Transformers just made it to the theaters first. Transformers the movie bombed, okay? It bombed, and it bombed because Optimus Prime died. So when that happened, they're like, yeah, we're not going to lose money on G.I. Joe the movie, so let's just finish this fucking movie, but let's just release it to television, because we don't feel like losing more money on this shit. So it was supposed to go to the theaters. That's why you have a Don Johnson in there. That's why you have a Burgess Meredith. They probably were going to have some more people, but they realized we're not even going to waste money on budget to get the cast. Because remember, you had like Judd Nelson, you had Robert Stack, you had Lionel Stander, you had Leonard Nimoy, you had Orson Welles, John Moshida. You had these are pretty big names, like for Transformers the movie. But and I know all this because like I actually have a Facebook friend. So if you're watching right now, Larry, wow, you're gonna have to like edit this because I cannot believe that I am messing up Larry's name because
better hope I pay attention to what I'm editing because this might
Larry Houston. Boom.
Okay.
Actually, it's okay because he can understand. I'm like excited right now. Larry Houston directed the X-Men, and he actually directed the opening credits of G.I. Joe the movie. He told me, I actually inboxed him and actually, yo, like what's up with this movie? Like, why did it end up the way it did? So he gave me that background. So the movie basically is like Transformers the movie in that you want to kill off the old leader, bring up a new one. Okay. So this guy named Falcon, who's a lieutenant, is Duke's younger half brother. And he's one of the new recruits. And Cobra wants to basically get control of this thing called the broadcast energy transmitter. Cobra Law, which is like this subterranean race that Cobra came from, wants the broadcast energy transmitter because they want to launch these spores that will mutate like the whole human race into mindless beasts so they can reclaim the earth all over again because they are a bunch of nature-loving environment. Civilization and technology is like bad, so they want to like get rid of humans. And by the way, yes, I absolutely do think that this kind of made me a little bit non-naturey as a kid. I always saw like organic and nature as like Cobra Law and like technology as human. So anyway, point is, so shit ensues. Cobra Commander gets turned into a snake because he failed like the Cobra Law mission. Duke basically gets like killed in the movie, but they changed it to him being in a coma, even though you could tell he fucking died. And basically Falcon leads the Joes to like defeat Cobra Law. And when the spores go up in the atmosphere and they use a broadcast energy transmitter to like fertilize the spores, he just turns the juice up more and fries them in the atmosphere. There's representation. There is an Asian woman named Jinx who was like Flint's Falcon's girlfriends. That was pretty cool. I think G.I. Joe in general actually was pretty good representation. There's a lot of diversity. They had like Roadblock, and they had a lot of different races. Okay, but overall, it was a great. No, it wasn't. It was great to see the movie in the theater, but again, it was like that's the last time I'll ever devote time to seeing a movie like G.I. Joe the movie ever in a theater. So that's my animated thing.
Was the Baroness in it?
Oh my god, dude. Okay, first of all, as a kid,
she's my cartoon crush.
I didn't get it. I was too young, but now when I see her, oh my god.
Yeah.
She's ridiculous, dude.
Yeah. I was like, she's like the naughty librarian of the evil, like
even her voice, like
yeah.
Yo, Baroness is banging. Like she even has like the body.
Yeah. She's curvy as shit. It was ridiculous. Like she was a bad girl. Yes, so
thank you for letting me get that in there.
Yeah. I don't have a good transition from this other than that was a movie about action. So let's talk about Marvel for just a second. And they had two little reveals this week. Nothing major, and they may not even be anything. But hopefully I will remember to look for this part of the episode, and I can post the artist's rendering of the actor who will play Namor in Wakanda Forever in his pretty comic accurate costume. There's a little bit of headgear that looks a little different, but I mean they got him in his little green Speedo. Which in its own way is pretty cool because Namor's outfit isn't that different than Aquaman's in the comics. And Marvel said, fuck it, we're going to do it. And their Namor looks better than DC's Aquaman. So I'm curious, and I think they're going to get into some background with it and maybe change it up a little bit. I don't know enough about Namor, but they're going with, I think, an Aztec background for him.
Yeah, it certainly looks like it from the
Yeah.
I'm looking at the picture now.
Yeah, so it's cool. It's cool to see it. He's long been rumored to be a character in the next one, potentially referenced in Infinity War.
Or you mean Endgame,
No,
right?
Endgame.
Yes.
Endgame.
Yeah.
When they talk about the earthquake off, yeah. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. Interesting character to introduce. He's always been a little, even though he's kind of like Marvel's Aquaman, he's also kind of like Black Adam in the fact that he's not always the nice guy. He's kind of that gray area character. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with that. Like in Feige we trust, so we'll see what shakes. But I'm excited for it. I don't know that I would have ever said I'm excited for Namor.
Yeah, but for some reason, it almost feels like one of the worst kept like secrets or worst kept rumors, because we've been hearing. If anything, like if Namor wasn't in Wakanda Forever, people would be like, WTF, like what?
Right.
Like, we've been expecting for like 2 years. Like, stop it. Like,
yeah, so that one's cool. And then the other bit of information that's out there, I don't know how valid it is yet or not, but Taron Egerton said that he has met with Kevin Feige and he would like to play Wolverine. That does not mean that he's been offered Wolverine. It doesn't even mean he actually talked about Wolverine. But I gotta say, like, there's been a lot of pictures of him up online since that rumor has been kind of cranking. And I don't hate it. I've got to hear him speak and see if how he'll sound as Wolverine. But it'd be an interesting take. He's a little young in the face for Wolverine, but at the same time, Wolverine doesn't really age.
Yeah.
So you can get away with that, I think, as long as he can be gruff. I don't know how tall he is, but he looks a little shorter and stockier.
He does.
And you put the right facial hair on him, and I honestly, I think he could do it. It would be super interesting. So I'm curious about it. If he got the part, I wouldn't hate it. I'd still, want to see what they do, but he's got the chops. He just did Rocket Man. He did as Elton John. So
he's 5'9".
He's 5'9". See, I mean, that's amazing to me too. Like, and if he needs to get a little more buff, Marvel has put that. Yeah,
they got the juice. So, not literally, but although actually I'm not going to start rumors. What was I going to say? Yeah, I've never really even had a reason to see the Kingsman films, and I think I might finally fire them up.
They're fun. I don't think they're particularly great, but they're fun. They're fun. They're like a corny Bond almost, but he's good. Like, he's good in them. And it actually, I should go rewatch him if there's even a chance that he's going to play Wolverine. It'd be good to see him do some action stuff.
Yeah.
And assuming that he's probably a little leaner in those than he would be by the time he hit the screen as Wolverine. But it's interesting. It's not the worst fan casting that I've seen. If he's 5'9", I love that. So
and Matthew Vaughn's been saying this forever. And Matthew Vaughn, I know he wrote and I think directed X-Men First Class. He's the reason why I think Days of Future Past is any good, because I think he wrote that too. So I know Matthew Vaughn also, of course, is behind the Kingsman films. So I know he's been saying he needs to be Wolverine for like years. So I think that probably held some weight. And that's why I've kind of seen him as a front runner as well. If anything, the front runner. That's why when I posted it, I was like, I'm not surprised at all. But the surprise, of course, would be, of course, Mr. Harry Potter. That would be the
I see. I still don't hate that one either.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know that I've ever seen him do an American accent. Um, not saying he hasn't. I just haven't seen him do anything where he has. And technically it's a Canadian accent, but he's speaking English. So, and his voice isn't particularly deep and scratchy, which you got to be able to say bub and sound, a little scary.
I don't even know Tehran. I don't even know Tehran, Taran or Tehran, whatever his name is. I don't even know his voice. Have you heard his voice before?
No, that's what I'm saying. Like I can't hear his voice in my head. So that would be
even Hugh Jackman. When you hear Hugh Jackman speak in his like Australian voice, it's so not Logan.
Dude, everything about Hugh Jackman is not Wolverine. Like it's so funny to me that he's Wolverine, because like he is like the kindest. Like, and then in real life, like he just looks so much slimmer. Yes. He looks like
dapper and just
I mean, he fucking sings and dances. Like he was just on Broadway like this year. Like he's not Wolverine, but like nobody else can live up to the standard of Wolverine that he
did. Have you seen that clip of him where he's like providing the sound for him running through the woods?
Yes.
And he's like, rah, rah, rah. And I'm like, it's crazy, like just seeing it. And then when he stops in his face,
and as soon as it cuts, then he's fucking
crazy.
You're like, he's a nice cuddly guy again.
Yes.
It's wild, but it to me it reminds me of when Jack Nicholson played the Joker, and everybody was like, well, who the fuck is ever going to play the Joker again, right? Like this guy, did an amazing Joker. It's never going to work. And then they cast Heath Ledger, and everybody's like, well, what the fuck are you doing? And then it was brilliant. And now, everybody was like, well, nobody else is going to be able to do Joker again. And then Joaquin Phoenix came out and did a great Joker. So, I mean, it's trippy. The only thing that Hugh Jackman has that maybe Jack Nicholson didn't have is that by the time Nicholson played the Joker, he was like the third or fourth person to be the Joker on film or on TV, right? There was Cesar Romero. I think there was some old Batman shows where somebody played the Joker in black and white. Like there'd been Jokers before, and there were going to be Jokers afterwards. Hugh Jackman is the only live action Wolverine. Like there's never been another one.
Now I have to get a little mini rant in, which is why I'm kind of anti-naysayer. Like I feel like it's so much easier to naysay and destroy and talk down than to build up. So, it's fucking lazy to me to be like, oh, this is not going to work. Oh, it's going to suck. Like, what? Shut up. Like, no. Like, I think that I remember when, what's his name? Heath Ledger was cast. And I was kind of wait and see. And I remember that first picture of him sitting on the bench, like in the jail, came out. And as soon as I saw that picture, I was like, oh yeah, he's gonna kill it. He's gonna fucking kill it. I know you hated that fleck, but I was okay with it. And I think he did a fine ass job, actually, even though it was a stuntman in the suit doing the fighting. And I think that what's his name did a pretty good job as well in the Batman, as in Pattinson. So
that's the one I was trying to remember. I was trying to remember who they cast recently that people were like they shouldn't be it and be that character, and I was like I think it'll work, and it was Pattinson. I never doubted it, and that may actually be because of Heath Ledger, but I really never doubted Robert Pattinson. Like before seeing it, I never really doubted him as Batman. I thought he would be okay.
The only thing I didn't like, because I remember he said, I don't feel like I need to work out. Like he actually said that. And when I read that, I'm like, what? Okay, I'm worried now. It's
well, like... I think it depends on where you tell Batman's story. A young Batman isn't going to be as ripped as an old Batman. Like, and that sounds kind of counterintuitive, but like when he's young, he's still figuring out how strong he has to be. He's going to be concentrating more on fighting styles and being fit rather than big. Like what Affleck did in Batman, in that whole scene where he's, you know, training and getting all jacked. Like, dude, he was jacked. Like, as much as I would love to put Ben Affleck in a bag and a pillowcase and throw him in the river, dude was jacked. Like, he was huge in that movie. But a young Batman could be slower. I mean, Christian Bale wasn't particularly ripped.
As a matter of fact,
he was fit.
Yeah, he was fit. He actually got big. He got big. I don't know if you heard about this. He got too big, and the director told him to slim down. He's like, or like, just get smaller. He's like, I don't want fat man. I want Batman. It's pretty funny. So yeah, that's some pretty cool news in the Marvel world that we've just covered, I believe.
Yeah, but it was fun. And then the last thing that I have, going away from Marvel and back to DC in a way, but not going to the DCEU, which angers me to no end, is the season finale of season 2 of Superman and Lois was this last week. And it was an interesting season. There were some interesting decisions made in the release of the show. There were several times during the course of the season where they took like a week or two off and then released an episode, and then it was like another week off. And so it was kind of hard to really stick with. But there were moments in this season, especially earlier in the season, where it was almost like I talked about Miss Marvel, where the characters are just so good, and you love the work that these actors are doing so much, that it's really impressive. There's a guy that plays Lana Lang is one of the characters. She's played by Emmanuel Shrieky. I don't know if I'm saying, yeah, I'm probably butchering her last name, but I had the hugest crush on her when she was in a movie called 100 Girls. And that was in like right around 2000. And I randomly caught it on cable television, and I just thought she was the most gorgeous thing on the planet. And so when they cast her in the show, they cast her as Lana Lang and not Lois Lane. And I was like, but she's so pretty. I was like, how do you do that? And they cast this other girl, Bitsy Tulloch, as Lois Lane. And I was like, before the show started, I was like, I would have rather had it be the other way around. But no, they nailed it. I love Lois Lane. Like, I love Bitsy as Lois Lane. She's fucking amazing. And I love the family that they built for Lana. She was married to her character is married to this guy. The actor's name is Eric. I'm going to get it wrong. It might be Vasquez. But like in the first season, he's really unlikable. Like, he almost feels like the semi-villain of the show. Like, he's really unlikable. And I was like, man, I fucking hate this guy. And they do some stuff, and I can't remember now if it's in season 1 or if it starts in season 2, where they completely turn him around. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I fucking love this guy. And like, I think I tweeted about it. I said something about like, oh, his character, he's doing some great work with this, and he's cool. Like, he replied, he's like, thank you so much, blah, 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 whatever. Nice. And that always impresses me, because I think these guys don't have to take this time, these actors. And maybe it's just could just be a PR person for all I know, but like, they don't have to take the time to reply to, anything out there. But the casting in this show has been pretty great. Like, the people that are playing the family members, it's not as cheesy as Smallville. For as much as I love Smallville, like I really do, I do almost hope they never have a Lex Luthor on, because Rosenbaum is still the greatest Lex Luthor that there's ever been, period.
Amen.
But this season they dealt with Bizarro. They just dealt with the Bizarro world, and they did a pretty good job with it. It wasn't corny. Bizarro is a fun character in the comics because he's ridiculous, right? Like he's just silly, like he's big like Superman, he's strong like Superman, but he's not real bright and all that. And they deal with that in a very different way. Because when they first introduce him, he almost looks like Doomsday. So he comes blowing out of this mine and he's got like the full like Doomsday comic kind of outfit on. And it turns out it's Bizarro underneath, but he needed this suit to travel from his dimension to this dimension. And they do a lot of stuff, and some of the story, some of it works, some of it doesn't. They introduce Steel, John Henry Irons. Mm-hmm. I like him. I wasn't sure where they were going with him at first, because he's almost a villain at first. Like when they first introduce him, he says his name is Lex Luthor.
And I was like, funny you say that, because I did catch that, because I have watched a few episodes. So it's just one of those shows where like, yeah, if I had more bandwidth, I would incorporate it. But yeah, I just said, okay, they're going with Black, let's because didn't he wear like a suit? Like, yeah, he wore like
he's got a steel suit, yeah, like, and he's got the hammer and everything. Well, he's John Henry Irons from another alternate universe where Superman turned on his planet and killed. He was John Henry Irons was married to Lois Lane in his universe. Whoa. And Superman kills Lois Lane on camera. So he comes to basically save our planet from Superman. And so the first part of the season is him coming to terms with the fact that Superman's not bad here. He's not going to go bad, but it's kind of that thinking that we talked about at one point where, many episodes ago, where you kind of have to have that idea that if Superman goes wrong, shit goes sideways real fast because you can't stop that dude, right? And so in his world, it did. And so, he comes to terms with that. His daughter comes over, so she's there. So they basically have Steel now as a kind of a partner to Superman going through the season. They fight Bizarro, they fight some other stuff. And it goes, and at the end, the real big bad they have to fight, but she drains all of Superman's powers, and the other heroes try to take this woman on. She's the big bad, and they can't beat her. And so the solution that Superman / Clark Kent comes up with is that they need to throw him into the sun to recharge his batteries as fast as they can. The effects on it are cool. Special effects are not cheesy. They're not corny. They throw him in. He gets all powered up, saves the day, whatever. And it's a good, solid ending to the story. At the very end, they introduce next season potentially could be about Intergang as the villains. Intergang is the big like gang conglomerate of the DC universe. Intergang, they're bad. They're bad everywhere. You know what I mean? Like they're across the planet. I forget. I think the Penguin's been part of Intergang before and some other people. So, but Intergang is a big deal. But the thing that they didn't talk about at all, and I think that they could potentially bring up in season 3, is that by flying into the sun, they did an episode, or sorry, they did a run of All-Star Superman where Lex Luthor forces Superman to save some astronauts by getting too close to the sun, and it overpowers Superman's cells, and he effectively gets cancer. His cells start breaking down, and he's dying from basically sun poisoning, right?
Wow.
And so I'm curious to see if they bring that up in this next season, because I don't know that it wasn't in the mainline comics. It wasn't in Superman. It wasn't in Action Comics. It was this special side storyline that they did. So I'm curious to see it. I did enjoy the season. I'm excited for the next season. I didn't know when this show was starting that I was going to love Tyler Hoechlin as much as I did. Although when he showed up in Supergirl, his very first appearance, he saves his little kid, he catches a car, saves the kid, turns, gives the kid a shit-eating grin. They have a fun moment. He takes off. And like, I knew in that moment that I love this dude as Superman. Like, it was a very heartwarming, genuine moment that we haven't had from Superman in a long time.
Not since really.
Yeah.
I'm sure Kane did it, but like, I didn't really buy Kane.
Yeah. I don't remember that show. I remember watching it a lot. But I don't remember much of it. I was young. I remember being more excited by the Flash show back then, with Wesley Allen Shipp as the Flash, and that show was cool. That had Mark Hamill as the villain in the Flash show. But I don't remember. Was it Lois and Clark? Because that one was, right?
Lois and Clark: The New Adventures of Superman.
That's right. That's the full name. Yeah. So, but I love Superman and Lois. I love the dynamic. I think it is a bit of a family show, like not for your family, but like it's about his family more than it's about some of the other stuff.
Yeah. So from what I have seen, right, I know there's two kids and one of them's all sensitive and shit. The other one's like a jock. And it turns out the sensitive one has powers, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The jock one doesn't.
Which is interesting because I don't know why I'm blanking on his name, but his brother is Jonathan Kent. In the comics, Jonathan Kent is the only son of Superman and Lois, and he has powers. So the other son is the one with the powers in this one.
Yeah.
And they deal with that this season. Like, number one, the kid starts training a little bit. But also there is a drug going around that gives people superpowers. The kids are kind of pushing it so they can get better athletic. It's kind of like their version of steroids, right?
Yeah.
And so he takes them to be as cool as his brother, basically. And they deal with that. They deal with that within the season. It doesn't go on too long, but they deal with it for a little bit.
But isn't Jonathan like the one who doesn't have the powers? Isn't he the cooler one, or does?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah. But he still feels like lame for not having powers
because he doesn't have powers, right? Yeah. And plus he in the first season they moved from Metropolis to Smallville,
right? And
so in Metropolis, he was like starting quarterback, and he was a big deal. And then he moved here, and he had to prove himself. And then kids on the team started taking this drug before he did, so he was losing the only like stature that he had. Yeah, so I mean, it's a well told bit of story, but yeah, it's good.
It's probably not a fair question, but fuck it. If you were forced to watch this show or Smallville, for like a year, and you will only watch one of them, which one would it be?
I think I'd watch Smallville because there's so much more content, even though it's overall not as good of a show. But there's a lot of story in Smallville. You got 10 seasons. I mean, that's not fair. The acting is better in this, other than Rosenbaum. Rosenbaum will die on the sword. That is the greatest telling of Lex Luthor there could possibly be, because you get a true arc of the character, a guy that is really trying to be good and eventually breaks bad. And that was the best story in Smallville, was that relationship. The whole Lana Lang thing was cute because it was a teen show or whatever. She leaves, Lois comes in. I actually loved the Lois that they had in that show. Erica Durant was great.
Yeah.
I loved her. And that romance actually fit a little better in the story, because that it's going to be the right one for him. But it was always at its best when it was Clark and Lex.
Yeah.
Like, that's what made that show great. This one is the real magic is in the families. You've got Lana and her husband. You've got Clark and Lois, and they're, dude, I love her. I love the girl that plays Lois. I really didn't think I was going to, and I fucking love her.
Bitsy Tulloch, your name is.
Yeah. Elizabeth Tulloch, but she goes by Bitsy.
Nice. Well, word up.
Yeah. So that is everything I've got. Yeah, I don't know if you've got anything else to throw in before we throw in the towel.
Yeah, no, I don't think so. I know at some point when we get all four Musketeers back, we may have to talk about John Carter. But let me tell you, I'm a little like, I'm joking when I say this, but I'm a little upset that you made us watch that shit because, man, I am not enjoying it.
That's interesting because I always heard, and I've been lazy. I started to watch it and I fell asleep because I was super tired one night. So I need to finish it before we talk about it. But I had always heard that it bombed in the theaters for whatever reasons, but that it's actually a decent film is the kind of opinion of it. Like it should have done better than it did. And so that's actually one of the reasons that I want to watch it, because I want to see how I feel about it, knowing that it bombed, knowing that it probably was supposed to be okay. And just see what I feel about it. Cause I remember I did watch the first 15, 20 minutes and I was kind of like, what?
Yeah.
Like, come on. And it's based on a classic sci-fi novel, or series of novels. But funny enough, the show that we're not talking about this week that I'm waiting for Andy, because I think I need to watch a couple more episodes just so I can talk to him face to face about is what's it called? The Terminal List on Amazon Prime with Chris Pratt. But his Chris Pratt's best friend is Taylor Kitsch, who is the main character in
so Taylor
John Carter.
It's so funny you say that, dude. I shit you not. I am an IMDb or actually Wikipedia right now looking up what else Taylor Kitsch has done, because I frankly think the movie suffers because I don't think he can carry a film. Poor guy. I'm sorry, dude. Like, nothing personal. I just don't think you had it to carry a film. You know, not again. I feel bad. It's not like I'm an actor. Like I can't carry.
Yeah.
So like I'm just saying, I'm acknowledging this, right? But yeah, I think I'm looking at your stuff and it's like, yeah, man, I think you kind of peaked. You peaked at John Carter as far as
well,
like,
that was the thing. Like from what I read, it really tainted his career too, right? Yeah. Like he was the lead, it bombed, and everybody kind of blamed him.
I just did it too. Like, so yeah, dude. Like, yeah. That I mean, and without that, like you need, any movie needs a lead that you're really invested in. And
yeah, I think, you need a little charisma. Like you gotta, you know, I mean, he's supposed to be a little hunky, and I don't know if he was even that, you know.
He was a little hunky, whatever, but it just wasn't enough. Like, I would have done what whoever directed Back to the Future did. Like, they're working with Eric Stoltz, they're realizing it's not working out, and they go get fucking Michael J. Fox. Like, just stop. Don't keep going with something that's not working.
Yeah. So we'll definitely talk about that soon. It may be next week if Pete decides to still be alive and Andy decides that he can get out of his girlfriend long enough to come on the show. And I know what I said. I said it on purpose. And so, yeah, so we'll see. Next week would be the ideal week because in theory, all four of us will be here. So I better fucking watch that thing. I'm sure somebody will say something about it on Friday and I'll be like, oh shit, I better watch this stupid movie. So cool. All right. Well, then that's that. If if you have the time and you think about it, get your Thor: Love and Thunder tickets before next Saturday, because I will be seeing it next Saturday.
I'll see it.
So if everybody's seen it by that evening, we could talk about it. I can also hold on to my britches for a week and talk about it a week later.
No, we're talking about it next week. Fuck that.
So I'm stoked for that. And then we'll see. Maybe with Pete back, he'll come up with a game for us to play and for Andy to lose, and we can do that too. It seems to be our theme. So, but all right. Well, with that, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. If Pete ever posts this one, we hope you enjoy the show. Leave us comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And we'll see you next week.
Deuces. I noticed that we actually got a pretty decent amount of views. I think for quick, a quick amount, because the episode before had 30 something, and we're at like 28. Like we're right behind it. Yeah. And we're only 4 days in, so we'll see what happens. But it was a better number than I don't know. Actually, I actually had pretty decent expectations for it. Oh. I feel like a lot of people that follow you interact with the show. So I was like, I kind of feel like not necessarily that everyone is here just for Andrew, but you bring people to the table. So I figured, those people would still show up. So. Well, and I think, and I think the people that have listened to us for a while, like there's Ken is one of the guys that follows and comments a lot. He's been following since day one, and so I think any change to the show, I think he'd follow. So yeah, maybe we'll have a couple less. I don't know. The big tell will be this coming week, since it's just the two of us again. Like if nobody watches, then we'll know the first one was a bomb. But we'll see how that goes.